Welcome to the Inflection Podcast, where we explore the pivotal moments that have shaped us into who we are today. I am your host, Anabi, and I can't wait to dive into these moments with you. Let's get it. Welcome to another episode of the Inflection Podcast. I am super stoked to have here with me co-founders of My First Nest Egg, Nicole and Annie. Thank you so much for hopping on with me.
Thanks for having us. Good to be here.
Awesome. When I first came across My First Nest Egg some years ago, I was blown away by the premise for what you're doing, financial literacy, if I could call it that, for kids. Oh my gosh, that's a novel idea. My wife and I have I keep saying 16-month-old, promise I know her birthday, 14-month-old daughter. And I'm just thinking, through that a lot more these days, right? I want her to start off with good knowledge about finances and a healthy relationship with money, which brings me to, right, your origin story during COVID lockdowns, coming up with this. What did that look like for you from your two perspectives?
This story has been a really fun thing for us. And I love the way that Annie tells it because she actually had to convince me to go camping. And that's really where genesis of My First Nest Egg happened, camping trip. Had I not been arm twisted into an uncomfortable position, I'm not sure it would have happened. Annie, why don't you tell them exactly what happened on our camping trip? Because I'm not sure that this whole thing would have been born without being forced into that position.
It's true. Nicole is not much of a camper, and my family absolutely loves camping. So COVID seemed like the ideal time to camp, and we were in the base of the Superstitions, which is gorgeous. And we had all our families together, and we had been doing the homeschool thing for a little while, right? Because all the kids were home. And we were just lamenting that we had really entitled kids. They thought everything was free. They thought free shipping on Amazon meant that it just came for free. They were annoyed by the fact that COVID had slowed down Amazon shipments, so things weren't coming in the normal 2-hour time frame. And they didn't understand money. And I think the biggest point for me, that the aha moment, was goggles. They just kept leaving their goggles outside. And goggles, the rubber gets ruined outside. And they were just like, oh, just buy another pair, buy another one. We heard that so many times, buy another one. So Nicole and I were lamenting this on this camping trip. And we both realized that our kids needed a financial education. They needed to understand that things actually have to be purchased with money and someone has to make that money. I think at the time we thought we would be able to leave that camping trip and find a solution. We weren't really looking to start a company. We left knowing that we were going to find a way to make our kids understand how money works in the real world. And we did. We left that camping trip and we got home and we started researching, and we learned two things. One, there aren't great solutions out there for little kids. All of our kids were under 10 at the time. Nicole has 3 and I have 4. And I don't even know where I was going with that second one, but there aren't great solutions for kids who are really little. And the second thing we learned is it's not only us, like it's a global problem, I would say.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that leads to the next thing. So you walked away with the epiphany. We need to do something. You did some research, found out, oh crud, there is a gap in the market, right? Or a need. A lot of folks struggle with this. We need to do something here. What did that look like from inception of the idea to shipping your first iteration of the app? And maybe what were some challenges there as women navigating this tech, right? Doing an app. How in the world do you start?
So I think we approached this from a very female perspective because we saw that there were really heavy debit card and tech forward platforms teaching slightly older kids about money. And I think what we did is we started saying, but does this solve the problem or is this just a Band-Aid? And I think as moms, we always really want to get to the true issue and not just put a Band-Aid on top of it. And so for us, the heart of the problem was really not the dollars and cents of money that kids were missing out on. It was the habit formation and truly the right mindset about money that kids were lacking. And I think what we saw with our own kids is it wasn't that they didn't understand that this cost $5 and they had $5. It was the fact that they didn't understand the habit of putting money to use for yourself, of building a savings mindset, of building a growth mindset. And so very quickly, we roped in a friend who was a behavioral psychologist for children. And we said, hey, how do we solve this problem? Starting with really little kids. And I think that's one of the things that differentiates us from really all the other products out on the market is we said, what's going to be good for their mental health? Because
Yeah.
mental health and money are so tied together as adults, and everything else is very topical. And we really wanted to get to the heart. In terms of the tech and how we actually made this happen, it's a cool story. Annie, I'd love to punt it to you because Annie's mom is the coolest woman on the planet. And if it wasn't for Annie's 80-year-old octogenarian mom, we wouldn't have a company today.
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm very curious.
So my mom is a serial startup founder. She loves startups. She has one right now dealing with organic foods. She just likes to think out of the box. As long as I can remember, my mom has had some business going. It is funny. Not a lot of people would call their 80-year-old mother when they need a tech solution. When we decided that we needed an app, I called my mom and she told me about a low code, no code platform called Bubble, which we had, of course, never heard of. And then she introduced us to a friend of hers who was, I don't know, he must have been 22 at the time. So
Oh,
she had a lot of friends, yeah, who were much younger than her, who build Bubble apps. So she introduced us to him. He is an amazing kid, not so much a kid. He's probably 27 now, named Adam Parrish. And he built the first version of our app. And
Wow.
did not know what we were doing. I remember the first time someone told us we needed wireframes, and we're like, "I'm sorry, what? Like, that's
Real
wrong.
wire?
I don't understand."
That is cool. Oh my goodness. I did a bubble boot camp some years ago and was blown away by the way it abstracted away some of the complexities of having to code. So using no code, the tool handles a lot of that. So that is fantastic that you built your MVP on Bubble. Are you still on Bubble or have you had to evolve from that?
We are still on Bubble, and we will probably stay on Bubble for quite a while. And even if we have to move off Bubble, we could move the back end off Bubble, and we can keep our front end on Bubble. So we are
Yeah.
actually building a new version of our app right now. We have all new UI. So exciting. And that's all being built with Bubble.
Yeah, that is cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Nibi, you probably want to, for the people out there who don't know exactly what Bubble is, the reason we did this is we very early on in trying to build a company realized that two mom first time founders were never going to be the recipient of VC money. We we got pats on the back. Good, how cute. Is this a cute little macrame business you guys are starting on Facebook?
Mhm.
And Annie and I both come from very professional backgrounds. I was a corporate attorney for 18 years prior to starting this. Annie was a criminal prosecutor. And just the way that we were treated in the startup world at the beginning, where we very much felt like it was people were going to say cute, but they weren't going to say we're going to give you money. We went
Yeah,
lean from day one. So our startup
100%.
strategy, we knew that we weren't going to do anything unless it was lean. We tested it 1,000 different ways. When we get this much traction, we then put a tiny bit more investment into it and go from there. But we got to be lean. So we're not just bootstrapped, like we're holding up the boot with our teeth at this point.
We have so many great lean stories, but I think for my favorite is at some point Nicole says, we need an email address. Like we need a real email address. We just can't have a Google email address forever. And I said, okay, fine, we can have one. We're not paying for two. So our founders, and it was
That
just
worked.
Months. And then finally I said, can we please get our own email address?
The very definition of lean. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And that's the journey from identifying a problem to creating a solution and scaling that solution is it's never a straight linear path. There's so many pitfalls and things you learn along the way. Do certain things or maybe one thing come to mind of stuff now before you started that maybe you wish you knew then or would have been helpful if you knew when you both got this started?
I think for me, at least, understanding churn was a really big deal. And the way that we finally decided to overcome that issue is we started off as a B2C company, and we were very focused on really trying to get end users to pay for our product. And when you see how hard it is, especially when you're trying to give parents something that is an educational tool, they're not as willing maybe to come out of pocket for it unless they're maybe in a one very tight demographic. And
Yeah.
what we were like was, how do we get financial education into the hands of people who are going to pay us $3.99 a month per family? How are we going to really get this truly to be used on a daily basis by a much larger group of people? And that's when we went a B2B route. And I think that was one of the more fundamental changes in our strategy is when we transitioned from a B2C company to a B2B company and recognizing having institutional companies fund the product on behalf of our end users was the best way that we were going to really achieve our mission.
Nice. That's really insightful. Thank you. Anything on your end, Annie?
Honestly, think that the B2B was the biggest inflection point for our company. It made everything, it's not easier, obviously. Nothing is,
Yeah.
but it brought everything into focus because our mission all along was to give this to everybody. We always hated having to ask anybody to pay for it, any of our users too, because we always felt like the people who might need it the most might not be able to afford it. And that's Nicolle made an interesting point about parents and a financial app. But when you're a parent, you have such immediate issues with your children all the time. You're trying to keep them
Yeah.
healthy and they start school and you're trying to get them to learn their math and do their multiplication facts. I've got a 6-year-old. I'm working on getting him to read. Unless someone really tells you and that this is an issue, it is so far at the back of your mind, right? Like it's just not something you're thinking of. But financial habits are set by age 7. So how
Yeah.
parents to think about this now and how do we do it in a way that solves everyday problems for them? I think that's a lot of what we spend time thinking about. And then how do we make it free?
Yeah. That is really cool. What was the shift like from B2C to B2B? Was that painful? Was that a painful process for your current users, right? Your B2C users who are or customers already on your platform?
I don't think on the customer side, they felt any difference at all. In fact, it was a wonderful thing because now they're not paying for the app. We have our sponsors that are now paying for it. And in fact, what it's allowed us to do is as we brought on more and more sponsors, the app keeps getting better and better. Annie, do you want to tell them a little bit about our evolved gamification that's coming up? And honestly, I can't wait to get the new version of the app. I'm so excited. It is
Yeah.
one of my questions was each kid has a nest egg, and a question we kept getting is, "What's in the egg?" And as an adult, I never thought about that. And so Annie can tell you all about the new app coming up. So cool.
Yeah. The new app is just going to be more fun. Nicolle is the queen of fun. Nicole's the visionary in this relationship. She spends all her time like with amazing visions on how to make everything more interesting, more fun. And I am essentially like the Ebenezer Scrooge. And I'm like, oh, no, we can't do that. Oh, no, we can't do that. I don't know if we can do that, especially being limited. We're still limited by Bubble, right? There's only
Yeah.
so much you can do with a Bubble app. We have an
Yeah.
amazing developer, but I will say, probably the most exciting, there's 2 really exciting parts. One is that kids do get to pick their own kind of character now in the app, and it will hatch out of an egg. The upward main change as far as gamification is that the kids will all get their own credit score. And we really spent a lot of time on trying to figure out how to introduce kids to the idea of credit scores for a couple of reasons. It plays such a big role in everybody's life. I remember the first time I realized that credit score didn't just impact my rate on a loan, it impacts my car insurance rate, right?
Yeah.
It impacts so much. So it's important for everybody. It's really important for immigrant populations. Because one of the main issues they face is coming over and having no credit at all. So how can we teach their children about credit? So the app has a built-in game now for credit, and kind of everything you do in the app that's good helps build your credit score. So kids can build their credit score in the app by learning more financial education and doing their daily quiz question. by contributing to their savings account and continuing to earn interest, right? All of those things will help build their credit score and they will be very incentivized. So it will get them coming back to the app and learning all the financial facts, but it will also teach them what a credit score is. So when these kids graduate from high school, they're going to know that that credit card is going to impact their credit score.
Yeah, that is so cool. I love it.
Anibi, you said something at the very beginning before we started recording, and I just had to say the amazing thing about starting a business is you really learn your strengths and weaknesses. And as Annie said, yeah, I have crazy ideas, but not one of them can come to fruition without someone who knows how to make something happen. So I can tell Annie all day long, I want to get to that mountain over there. And she's just finds the pathway over a crazy mountain. And you have I don't know how anybody can have a startup without a really competent business partner, because I don't think anyone can have strengths in everything. And so having someone that can see a pathway to a distant mountain you have to have both things in order to have something that progresses and moves forward. So I just had to give a shout out back to Annie, who can take a crazy idea and actually implement it and make it happen. So you had mentioned it was fun to do two people. I just don't know how any one person can do what we've accomplished in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, totally. And that's something I have seen in my own life and business as well, right? We need the angle of the world. We visionaries and you have all these ideas and stuff, and ideas are awesome, but being able to execute them and having partners that can work hand in lockstep with to bring those to fruition, that is gold and very hard to find such partnerships. If you have those, hang on to it.
Plus, it's just fun.
I think it's so much more fun with someone. I can't imagine doing it. Having two people to even each other out to, because we know, like, one of us has a bad day, right? Something happens with the business. You always have someone there to give you a pep talk and pick you back up. I think having two people, I don't know if it's only a female thing, if it works better with women. I don't know what it is, but I know that I wouldn't want to do it any other way.
Yeah. One other thing along those lines, I was going to say, all these cool success stories of kids is in your app. It's pretty cool and it's inspiring. Again, looking from the perspective of, I have a daughter and we will have more, and I want them to build good money habits, good financial habits from a young age. Along those lines, what are certain maybe future trends in child education with regards to financial literacy that you're most excited about?
We know gamification is here to stay, but I don't know if this is a trend as much as something that Annie and I just have acute knowledge of because we have a lot of kids around us. And that is concise. Things have to be short. They have to be easy. And that's the way families work. So our financial education platform is very different than a lot of others. Ours takes the educational piece less than 2 minutes per day. And that was so important for us. It had to be one tiny little piece of knowledge that built on itself every single day. And so I don't know if it's novel. I don't know if it's a trend, but it's very much the way that we know kids learn best. And we're really proud of what we've seen. We've had these great success stories. We actually gave our program to a low-income aftercare program, and they had our program for 30 days. So in less than 1 hour of instruction, we raised their financial literacy scores by 13 points. And when we went to go visit them and we did a little celebratory pizza party after they ran through the program, one of the boys, we were doing this fun little game, and he says, "Don't get the ice cream. It's a need, not a want." I can't think, Annie, of another highlight as big as that, when we just heard a kid who had never probably heard those terms before, internalizing it and then making a decision in a game. And then another boy, when he saw that we were so excited about his needs versus wants proclamation, he says, "Yeah, there's a boy at our school who had $150 Nikes, and he's bragging about them. And I told him, your shoes are a want. My shoes are good too." And it was just, there's been great moments, and we just know when something's working.
I think another trend we're seeing is that there's more and more realization that financial habits need to be taught early. And the research has been out there for quite a while, but it really hasn't had a lot of impact. And now we're seeing a lot of states starting to mandate that financial education start earlier. And one thing we know is that kids who grow up in houses where their parents talk about money, they're just much better off as far as savings when they get older. So the likelihood of having anything in savings goes up tremendously as an adult if you grew up in a house where your parents talked about money. So now, like with the earlier financial education, kids are at least the ones who aren't being exposed to it at home, or at least being exposed to it a little bit more at school and in the classroom. And we hope with our app. And then that will increase the number of adults who have savings, which of course, having savings leads to better financial health, better mental health, which leads to better physical health, right? There's a snowball effect, I think, that all
Yeah,
with finances.
absolutely. Oh my, I am still. So you're building a very unique company, right? Targeted at financial literacy for kids. And it usually kids stuff. There's positivity, there's fun, there's all of that, the whole enchilada. What does that look like company culture wise as you focus on children's financial well-being? What does your vision look like there as you build your company culture for that?
Company culture is exactly, we sum it up as like a mama bear. We're protective of children. We did everything with them in mind first. If you're a mom, you have to have a sense of humor, because if you're not laughing through the day to day, it's really hard. And I would say that we're really inclusive of all children in our push forward to a better financial future. So one of the things we did is we're building a company here in Arizona. 1/3 of our population is Hispanic. And so we didn't translate. We decided we were going to really invest in making this program available to a much larger community. So we decided to, right from the beginning, do everything bilingually. And so that meant not just writing in language,
Man,
but also writing in culture. And so we've hired, I'm Latina myself, but it was really important that we get community members submitting articles for us, being a part of each aspect of what we do. And so I think our culture just includes that. It's inclusive because we believe that we really have to make all ships rise to get better at financial education.
100%. That's cool. I
Annie, what
love it.
else am I missing?
I love that idea of all ships rising. I think you hit everything. Nicole said that we brought on a child psychologist as our very first person we talked to. If it's not good for kids, we don't do it. We didn't get into this. We're not like for any other reason aside to help our kids and then all kids. We're not serial entrepreneurs. We had careers. We really like them. This is more of a vocation, more of a calling than anything else.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, when you're not working on improving financial literacy for kids, I'm running my first nest egg. How do you unwind and recharge for both of you? And I know one of those is camping. That's an obvious one already.
I can go first because Nicole already knows what I say. I have started playing pickleball and
Oh,
it's good. I'm not very good at pickleball, but I really like it. I think the best part about pickleball is you can get to a point very quickly where you're halfway decent and then you can have a lot of fun being halfway decent. So when I'm not working on the business, I love to travel too. Our family likes to travel a lot. Anytime I can get on a plane or get on a road trip with my kids, I'm super happy. But when I'm not doing those things, I play a lot of pickleball with my husband.
awesome. Pickleball, it's fun.
Yes.
The only part I like about pickleball is potentially the pickles, because if I'm telling you what my thing is, I like to eat and I like to cook. I have a cholesterol problem because I like those things so much. But our family are foodies, and our weekends are spent really around what we're going to eat and planning the meals. And we do family feast nights, and everybody makes either a side dish or a piece. And so all my kids are ridiculous foodies, and they stopped ordering off the kids menu a long time ago. So Annie always laughs.
Oh yeah, I'm like separate bills, please, because all of my kids are eating mac and cheese, and Nicole's are like, "Can I have my filet extra rare, please?"
Oh my gosh. Ah, so I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the Inflection Podcast. It's been a pleasure and rooting for my first nest egg. And it's something, family needs to definitely be using that. And yeah, just excited to see as the journey unfolds and things evolve for you guys.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. We're having fun and committed to this process. So
Let's go.
Thank you, Anibi.